Thank you very much, Adil. And I must say this has been marvelous, listening to what's going on at LUMS. Because I've been here now, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, and I only heard rumors that there was something going on. I even missed Abu Bakr's seminar. I don't know what happened that day, but I would love to have seen. I did get his slides, by the way. I saw that. I saw the PowerPoint later on. A remarkable piece of work that's going on there. And you prohibited any use of PowerPoint today, but a couple of his slides would have been probably too good to hear today. Let me say a few things about my being here. I'm an expatriate. I lived in Pakistan for many years. I did my master's at University of Karachi many years ago, and I went abroad. But I got my degree in physical biochemistry. My PhD work was done in '69, but right after '69, there was an Earth Day that happened. And I happened to be a campus activist in those days. I did a lot of work, working as a volunteer in low-income community. I did some work on anti-war activities. So I sort of learned a little bit about how you organize things. But I helped organize the first Earth Day, 1970. So my biography in terms of environment is a long one. And what I did after that was basically leave research. I did my postdoc, but I just basically left research, academic career, and went into the environmental science and policy arena for almost 35, 40 years. And only in the last 6 years, since I moved to Connecticut from Washington, D.C., have I gone back to academic world, teaching and doing research. And that's part of the reason why I'm here, is because I'm back into academia. But I'm also trying to branch academia back into the environmental science and policy. And I was delighted to find that Adil, whom we have worked with, my organization, the National Council for Science and the Environment in D.C., I've worked with Adil when he was director of the Pardee Center at Boston University. And so we can talk about that also. But the thing that I want to see happen in Pakistan, and particularly at LUMS, because here we are, is a whole new way of doing environmental science and policy. Now, Noman just talked a little bit about the ethical dimensions, the spiritual dimensions of it. I think that is very important. When I've been here in Pakistan, I've talked about the Islamic contribution to science, all the way back to the Middle Ages. And I even gave a lecture on this in Islamabad. Most of us don't know our Islamic heritage very well. We only know it in passing. We only know a few names. Ibn Sina here, Razi Udar. Nay, this is a great contribution that Islamic science has done. Some of them deal with environmental issues. Sayyid Hussain Nasr, you mentioned, wrote the first book on nature, so to speak. And here we are. After all these years, I am coming back to Pakistan in a different capacity, teaching a course in biology department on evolutionary biology, not even environmental science. So all my environmental science, contribution here has been giving lectures here and there. Islamabad and the first time I was asked to even talk about climate change, LUMS was in the physics department. At the very end of my stay here, no one in LUMS even heard of what was happening to Pakistan in terms of climate change, which is very severe, by the way. I even spoke at the Lahore College for Women before I came and spoke here about climate change, which many of the issues that you've been talking about, we have to deal with. Water, particularly in food security, we're going to be having to face this issue the next 20, 30 years. And if LUMS doesn't take the leadership in developing environmental science and policy, who is going to do it? So it's extremely fortunate that you have someone like Adil here. He has come at the right time, at the right place to help us start. So when I got here, I said to my department chairman here, Professor Tariq, there is someone called Adil here, right? He does environmental policy. Can we just have an appointment to go out and see him? He said, oh, of course, of course. So I show up at his office. Next thing I hear is, he said to us, I wanted to have the initiative come from the faculty, not because I'm an environmental policy person who's going to come and self-impose his own agenda on you. He said, it's a good thing you're here because now you've got the faculty talking about it. I know there are many faculty doing this work, that work. Environmental law is being taught here. You've got people in electrical engineering doing, efficiency work. They're doing smart water distribution, research and all. But how do we put this whole thing together? Here we are now. We are ready to do this. I was in Shanghai about 5 or 6 years ago. I went to I was invited to come and speak at the law school, Jiatong University, one of Shanghai's leading schools, by the dean. You know why he invited me there? Talk about the first Earth Day. The Chinese students in the law school wanted to hear someone who had been involved in the Earth Day at the very beginning. Because in a sense, I feel like I was part of that pioneering group that did the work back then. We were just very small in numbers. Environmental science was not. Our organization, and I'll just now spend a few minutes talking about how NCSE got started, the National Council of Science and Environment. Back in 1990, a lot of people in the academic world felt that there was not enough funding going on in this field. And so a group of us got together and said, you know, we've got to do something about it. We've got to figure out a way to make sure that the environmental science community get the same kind of attention as the National Institute of Health does for biomedical research, or NSF gives to basic research in America. So that was our original impetus. Out of that initiative, over 22 years ago, we have now an organization that is probably unique in itself. We have about 180, 190 member universities and colleges dues paying. We have infrastructure that's remarkable. We have a council of dean and directors, all the major schools in the United States that have environmental science programs. Their deans and directors come twice a year for meetings. We have a major conference each year in Washington, D.C. We get over 1,200 people attend this meeting on some major topic. Last year we had something on natural disasters. The year before that we had on climate change. We have an annual Chafee lecture where we have very distinguished people come and speak. The first year, by the way, Adil, the people who spoke at our first, because this is the year the Senator Chafee had just passed away, we set up this memorial Chafee lecture. Sherry Rowland and Mario Molina were the first two speakers, the people who discovered the impact on the ozone layer. They gave a dual presentation. They were personal friends of mine, so I was able to persuade them to come and give a double slide presentation. And we have that, by the way, in...
First Nobel Prize.
And yes, Sherry Rowland got the Nobel Prize. And he died a few weeks ago. And yes, right. And so, but anyway, and there was a lot of newspaper articles reminding us about that. The thing that I would like to see happen is this. Just as I came to LUMS, our board met, our NCSE board met, and said, we want to expand our activity outside the US-Canada border. So now we have established formally the International Council for Science and the Environment, which means LUMS could be #1 school to join as a member organization for this institute. If you are interested, you want to talk amongst yourself. But we are now going to branch out with all the universities and colleges around the world, particularly in third world countries, which is where my emphasis is, to become members of this international council. Because in UK they have their own councils, they have it in Western European countries. But the third world country needs more help. When I was at the National Council for Science, NRDC, Natural Resource Defense Council, I headed a program that each year brought 2 environmental leaders from third world countries, specifically for 3 months, to work with us to develop that leadership capacity. Now, you invited me that day to the meeting at, what was it called, LEAD, which is also a fellowship program for bringing in environmental leadership and sustainable development. So there is so many different initiatives going on, and we would love to see if LUMS could become a member of an international community working in this field. Our motto of NCSE is improving the scientific basis of environmental decision making. So our whole concept is, how do you take science and knowledge you have in science and make that possible to... So when I was talking to Abu Bakr, I said, you should offer a course here on campus, environmental science and policy. And Abu Bakr says, I will be the first to take it, he said, because I'm a scientist, but I want to know how the policy works. We need to have environmental law being taught here. I worked for years with environmental lawyers, and when I was at NRDC, because that's how it started in 1970, as a group of scientists and lawyers. From the beginning, we were looking at it from the perspective of how do you get new regulations adopted, how you get statutes adopted, how do you work in the regulatory field. I spent many, many years testifying before legal bodies, even in lawsuits. And we were talking about lawsuits before judges and all. I had to write affidavits and all. Scientists can learn all of this stuff. Scientists must learn this stuff. We have no time left because the world is in peril. And that's my message has been all along. And Pakistan is in more peril because you're more vulnerable than almost anyone else. So I'm standing here on a soapbox almost pleading that we do something here quite seriously. One last thing, you need to develop a curriculum there. You need to have either a major or minor, at least a minor here. And you need to have 2 tracks, like we have in the United States. One going towards the social sciences, one going towards the natural sciences. So you have the environmental studies program, and you have the management program, you can call it, or environmental science program. Those of them will have different kind of curriculum, and different kinds of courses offered. But it's very, very important that you have these interdisciplinary cross courses here at LUMS at the soonest possible time. Because there are many students who have been coming up to me saying, we would love to be able to have some environmental science program, or maybe even major, or if I want to go abroad and I want to study, what schools should I go in and study in? So I said, okay, we have a website, we can help you out, and so forth. But it'll be nice to have it here. So that is just what I want to say in summary.